So when we look in the scriptures, we see the words disciple. We see discipleship, we see discipling, but it's not really a word that we see much anymore, is it? Unless you are in the four walls of a church. Typically what we see now, the business world has gone with the phrase of mentor or mentoring. A lot of companies, when you start as a new employee, they will assign you a mentor to help you learn the job, learn how to work within that company, but they're also somebody there that their job is to be kind of a sounding board for you. If you have issues with your boss, or you have issues with a coworker, or whoever, you have your mentor to go to be able to talk to. And the idea behind this is that it's not just somebody who's teaching you, like a school teacher teaching you the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, but is helping you with the whole part of your life. They care about your emotional well-being. They care about your mental health is the key words that they use these days, along with your work performance. But the concepts are the same. The idea behind a discipling relationship is that there is somebody who is here that is a teacher, a master, and there's somebody here that is learning and wanting to become more like the discipler. Today we're going to be in Luke chapter 5, if you want to turn there now. Luke chapter 5, beginning in verse 1. And what we're going to talk about is a disciple of Jesus. A disciple of Jesus. Many times we see today that teachers can fill the role of a mentor or a discipler. Coaches play a huge role for many of us. Many of my coaches, when I was growing up playing, were more like father figures. They cared about you outside of just that particular sport. We see that with organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters. They have mentors that work with kids that come from struggling home lives to help them be able to succeed in life. And this is what Jesus wants from us, is not just for us to look at him as this teacher that only has the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, but he wants us to look at him as somebody that we can go to with the questions of life. How does my marriage work? How do I raise children? How do I relate in my job to this coworker or this boss, and we just don't get along? How do we do that? And what does a disciple look like? And what we're going to find here in the first 11 verses of chapter 5 are 6 characteristics of a disciple of Jesus. Someone who wants to learn from and become more like Jesus himself. And so, characteristic number 1 is that a disciple of Jesus is excited to learn the Word of God. Look in verse 1. On one occasion, while the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the Word of God, he was standing by the lake of Gennesaret. So Jesus is standing by the lake of Gennesaret. And this lake is the Sea of Galilee. The Sea of Galilee has a few different names that we'll come across in the Gospels, and this is one of them. And so Jesus is standing by the Sea of Galilee. He's standing by the water, and the crowds are pushing in on him. There is this chaos because Jesus has become quite the celebrity in the area of Galilee. He's been traveling around all the synagogues, teaching, and he has grown quite a following. And so he's standing on the edges of the water, and the crowds are just pushing in. Now today, we might see something similar to this if you go to certain types of concerts, where the crowd is just trying to push up against the stage to be as close as they can. Or maybe you've seen videos of celebrities that they're walking down the street and all of a sudden these mobs are just coming and they're trying because they just want to touch the celebrity. They want an autograph. They want to be close and just hear and experience the aura of being around this celebrity. I have some friends that back in the day, several years ago, Netflix created this term, binge watching. You remember binge watching? It was when Netflix first came out, they would take TV shows and they would release the whole season at once. This was a new concept because for many of us, we had to grow up and we had to wait 7 days in between the next episode, and you're like, oh my goodness. And so Netflix said, hey, we're going to flip this and we're going to create binge watching where they just dump all 24 episodes at once. And I had friends that would literally spend hours watching shows. And they'd be up till like 3 in the morning watching shows. And then they go crash and go to sleep for a little bit. And then they got to do what they got to do, whether it's go to school, whether it's go to work. But that whole day, there's no school, there's no work going on because all they can think about is how quickly can I punch the clock, get home, and binge watch more shows. You all remember this. Maybe for some of you, it's either you or a kid or a grandkid, video game. New video game pops, man, you are waiting in line to get that video game. You're going home and you're spending hours playing this video game. It's all you think about is this video game. Maybe for some of you it's something else. It's some hobby that you have, but it consumes everything that you think about. You go through your motions of doing life, but you're really just counting the minutes and seconds until you get to go do whatever this is. This was the excitement that people had about hearing Jesus. Can you imagine that? This was the type of attitude that they had. How long? Because a disciple of Jesus can't get enough of his word. A disciple of Jesus actually enjoys reading the Bible. They actually enjoy listening to the Word of God preached. They're like, hey, I'm going to listen to podcasts. I'm going to listen to other preachers preach during my drive time or when I have some downtime. They enjoy that. They love thinking about God's Word. They love going on walks and just thinking about it. Like, I read this passage this morning and it's just stuck in your head and you're thinking about it. This is what a disciple of Jesus does. The Bible is God's word to us. The God who created all the earth, the God that was willing to come to earth and die on a cross to save us from our sins, he actually put a book together to communicate his love to us. And that book is called the Bible. And it's tremendous. It is wonderful that on Sunday you come and we spend time reading God's word. It's amazing that on Wednesday nights we come and we have Bible study and we open God's word. But the rest of the week, do we love it? Do we want to look forward to it, or is it just something that we do because we feel like we have to? A disciple of Jesus wants to get into his word because he realizes that if you need it, then you can have it. Now, for some of us, I know that that's a daunting thing. To read God's word is daunting. This thing is not little. There's stuff in here that's confusing. I get it. If you need help with this, if you need help learning how to read God's word, if you need a plan of action, then come see me. I would love to help you because I want you to be able to know how to work in the Bible. I want you to know how to read it. It's different. You read the book of Genesis differently than you read the Psalms. You read the book of Luke differently than you read the book of Daniel. So if you need help learning how to read this, I would love to help it because a disciple is hungry for God's word. Characteristic number 2 of a disciple of Jesus. A disciple of Jesus is faithful where God has placed them. In verse 2 we see, and he saw 2 boats by the lake, but the fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. So this last Monday, everybody had off, right? And so our family went to the little pond in town to go fishing. We went with the Zuniga family. Now, I'm a terrible fisherman. I don't know anything about fishing. So thankfully, Ray does. And he was able to help my kids be able to catch some fish because I would have been pointless and hopeless. I don't know anything about fishing, but Ray does. See, the fishing that we do, the fishing that most of you do, and the fishing that is happening here in the first century is vastly different. It's a very different fishing. These were professional fishermen. Professional fishermen, they fish during specific times. They know when the specific time is to fish. And they fish with these huge nets. They don't fish with the little 2-foot poles that we were fishing with, right? They know what they're doing. And so there's part of a process that they go through as professional fishermen. And part of that process is at the end of the day, they have to wash their nets. And the reason they have to wash their nets is so that their nets don't wear out quicker and break. They want their fish nets to last as long as possible. See, the guys understood the importance of this. They understood the importance of the details of right now because they couldn't move on to the next thing in life until they'd finished what was important in that moment. If they would have been thinking about what's next, they would have missed what was happening right then. They would have skipped the process of washing their nets because they wanted to get to the next thing in life. They would have cut corners. Where you are right now in your life, with where you live, with what your job is, with what sports teams you play on, with what your social network is, wherever you are in life right now, you're there for a reason. You are there for a reason. It may be a short period of your life that you're in this season. It may be a long period of time that you're in this spot. But God has you there for a reason. And He wants you to be faithful in that moment. I've had many seasons in my life where I've missed it. I've been thinking about the next thing. What's the next great thing? Where's the next house? Where's the next job? And I've missed it. But that's not what God wants us to do. Maybe you've been thinking the same thing. You're constantly thinking about what's the next job? What's the next promotion? Where's the next place? And you're missing it. Now, there's nothing wrong with planning for the future. God calls us to plan for the future. But if we're so obsessed with the things of the future, we miss the things of the present. A disciple of Jesus is thinking about how can I maximize my impact on the kingdom of God right now? Right now, how can I maximize my impact on the kingdom of God? Characteristic number 3 that we see here. A disciple of Jesus, even when it doesn't make sense, obeys what God has asked them to do. So even when it doesn't make sense. Look at verse 3. Getting into one of the boats, which was Simon's, he asked him to put out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the people from the boat. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." And Simon answered, "Master, we toiled all night and took nothing. But at your word, I will let down the nets." You see, Simon Peter and the guys that were with him, they were professional fishermen who had been doing this their whole life. It would be like me going to Bill or Gilbert or Casey and saying, "Hey guys, let me teach you a couple things about roping, okay? Let me teach you a couple things." You'd look at me like I was an idiot, wouldn't you? You'd think, what in the world? He doesn't know anything about roping. Who's he to tell us? Jesus was a great teacher. He was not a fisherman. But he's going to these professional fishermen and he's saying, "Hey guys, let me tell you something. I need you to do it again a little bit differently." I can only imagine. These guys had been working all night. They had just finished all their work. They were cleaning up for the day to go home. And Jesus says, "Go back out." Now, in today, they would have told Jesus to stay in his lane. Stay in his lane. That's the thing today. The text doesn't tell us what Simon Peter thought in this moment when Jesus said this. I can tell you what I would think in this moment if I was them, but it doesn't tell us. But what it does tell us is what Peter said. And what Simon Peter says is three important things that we all need to learn. The first is he recognizes that Jesus is his master and that he has authority over him. In our lives, even though we may not think what Jesus is saying is the way to go, do we respect his authority and understand that he is the master and what he says he has a plan for? Secondly, Simon Peter acknowledged he had reservations about what Jesus was saying. He's like, Jesus, come on, we've been out all night. We caught nothing. Like he tells Jesus, I got some reservations about your plan for my life. But thirdly, we see that Simon Peter obeys. So he recognizes Jesus' authority in his life. He tells Jesus, hey, I got some problems, I got some reservations, but then he obeys. He obeys what Jesus commanded. You see, Jesus isn't concerned about his disciples having questions. Jesus isn't concerned about his disciples having concerns. Jesus isn't concerned about his disciples having doubts. Did you know that? Did you know that God's okay if you have some doubts and some reservations and some concerns? He's big enough. He can handle that. He's okay if when you read his scriptures, you go, I don't get it. Or when God calls you to do something and you're like, I have some doubts about this. God's okay with that. He can handle it. A disciple isn't someone who doesn't have questions. A disciple isn't someone that doesn't have concerns or even doubts. But a disciple of Jesus is somebody who obeys. Jesus, where you call me to go, even though I may have some questions or concerns or some doubts about where you've called me to go, I'm going to go because you've called me to go. That's a characteristic of a disciple. Fourth, a disciple of Jesus humbly understands their sinfulness and Jesus' supremacy over their life. Look in verse 6. And when they had done this, they enclosed a large number of fish, and their nets were breaking. They signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both of the boats, so that they began to sink. And when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. You see, Simon Peter had just had the most amazing miracle that a fisherman could ever dream of. This was like beyond anything he could have ever imagined, especially after spending all night and not catching a single thing. But his instant reaction was humility. Jesus had just done this amazing miracle, and his instant reaction was humility. There have been so many times in my life over the years where I'm just like, I don't understand, God, why you would use me. It doesn't make any sense. Probably many of you have had that situation. Many of you are teachers, and I'm sure over the years you have looked and gone, I don't get it. Why would God use me in this kid's life? Why would God use me to do that? But he has. He's chosen to use you to make a difference in a kid's life. Maybe he's done that in the oil fields. You've got somebody that you work with, and they've got a rough background, but over time, by getting to know you and seeing Jesus through you, you've seen their lives start to change. And you just look at it and you go, wow, that's pretty amazing. That God would use somebody like me to help somebody like him. I told the guys this morning in our men's discipleship group that I love 9 o'clock every Sunday morning because in the short time since we've started this, we've seen God moving in these homes. And it's amazing. I love it. But God would choose to use somebody like us is humbling. It's amazing. And what happens is the more time you spend in God's word And the closer you get to Jesus, the more and more you start to realize how sinful you are and how unworthy you are, and it starts to humble you. That's what happens. So Simon Peter told Jesus, leave. Just leave me. Just leave me. Have you ever had that moment in your life? You have ever had that moment in your life where you go, Jesus, just go. I'm not who I need to be. I'm not where I need to be. And I would just much rather you just leave because I feel so bad about where I'm at in my life. But what we see here and what we will continue to see throughout these Gospels is that Jesus says, no, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Doesn't matter how much shame, doesn't matter how much guilt you have in your life, I'm going to be right here. I'm going to be right here because I love you. A disciple of Jesus is humbled to their core because they see the blessings in their lives and they see that Jesus' hand is on all of it. The blessings that we have, Jesus' hand is involved in every one of them. Characteristic number 5. A disciple of Jesus invites people to participate in what God is doing. Look in verse 9. And he and all who were with him were astonished at the catch of fish that they had taken. And so also were James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching men. So Jesus had not just done a miracle for Simon, Peter, but he had also done a miracle for James and John as well. This miracle was stunning to them, but it was not near as stunning as what was about to happen to them. See, the nature of fishing is you catch a fish to kill a fish to eat a fish, right? Catch a fish, kill a fish, you eat a fish. That's what they knew their whole lives. But what Jesus was calling them to was to catch men, not to kill them, but you're catching men to bring life to them that are already dead. Fishing is to catch something to kill it. When you work with Jesus, you're catching something already dead and breathing life into it. That is the miracle of what Jesus was offering. Jesus invited these men into a life that was changing everything. If you're sitting here today and you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, that's what he's inviting you to. He's inviting you into a life that will change you forever. If you do know Jesus, if you're sitting here today and Jesus is your Lord and Savior, the question is, when's the last time you shared the gospel with someone? When's the last time you sat down and told them about Jesus? When's the last time you invited somebody to come here on Sunday or to come on Wednesday night for Bible studies or to come to Rooted Kids or to come to Refuge Student Ministry? When's the last time you invited somebody to participate in the things that God is doing? When's the last time you invited somebody into your home to talk with them about Jesus? If we know Jesus, when's the last time we've invited them to participate? When's the last time we invited them to come into the family of Jesus? See, the gospel isn't something that disciples of Jesus hold on to, but it's something that we give away. It's something that we want to invite people into because we've seen how much it has changed us. Finally, characteristic number 6. A disciple of Jesus cast aside anything that keeps them from following Jesus. In verse number 11, we see, and when they had brought their boats to land, they left everything and they followed him. For many people in this world, when they think of becoming a Christian, they think that nothing needs to change. The mantra of today is that Jesus loves me just the way I am. I can do what I've always done. I can think what I've always thought. I can hang out with the people I've always hung out with. Nothing needs to change. And I want to tell you the truth of that. The truth is that there is nothing that you need to do to come to God through Jesus Christ. You don't have to clean yourself up. Come as you are. Jesus will accept you, love you, and care for you. But the truth of the matter is that God loves you so much that he won't leave you where you are. You can come to him just as you are, but you won't stay that way because Jesus will change you. His Holy Spirit will change your life. The things that were important to you become less important to you because now the things of God are more important. This is how God works. You don't bring anything of cleaning to the table. He's the one that cleans us. Some people, they hear this verse and their thoughts are, well, I have to leave a few things behind, or I have to change a few things in my life. So maybe I give up one or two of these things and I tinker with a couple of these things. Maybe what I need to do is I need to start going to church a few times a year, or I need to pray a couple times a year, or maybe if I give some money to a charity, God will be happy with me. This is how a lot of people think of Christianity is, if I do a few things, then I'll be okay. But Jesus' disciples are called to abandon it all. They're called to give everything up for them. That could be your jobs. That could be your social network. That could be your safety. Giving everything. Will Jesus call you to abandon everything? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But the question isn't will he or won't he? The question is, will you live your lives with open hands or will you live your hands with closed hands? And the question is have you made that decision now? Because if you wait till Jesus says, hey, I want you to give this up for me, or I want you to go to this place for me, if you haven't already made that decision before you get there, the chances are you probably won't. The question is today, are you living with open hands to what God has? Is everything that is yours his? Or is, it's mine and I'll give some of it? Jesus' disciples gave up everything to follow him, but they received infinitely more in the long run because of their obedience. Let me tell you a little bit in closing about my story and why this is important to me. You see, I grew up much like many of you. I grew up going to church on Sundays. I went to church on Wednesdays. I did what I was supposed to do. Was I perfect? Was I sinless? No, of course not. I did a lot of stupid things. But I did what was supposed to happen. My junior year of college, I'm at Texas A&M, and I'm attending Central Baptist Church in College Station. And in God's providence, two things miraculously happened. The first miraculous thing was that I had an interest in going deeper. God had been doing some things in my life, and I wanted more. He had put me in a place in my time in life where I was like, there's got to be more than just Sunday and Wednesdays. There's got to be more. So he brought me to a place where I wanted more. That was the first miracle. The second miracle was there was a man at that church who was willing to give up his time for somebody like me. And so I went to this Methodist kid who grew up in the Methodist church at a Baptist church now, and I went to somebody at the church and said, hey, I don't know what, but is there somebody, some guy that would be willing to spend some time with me? He said, yeah, there's a guy by the name of Gary Nations. And he just happened to be a PhD from Southwestern Seminary, and he was a Baptist. And so he said, why don't you come to my house? I meet with some college guys on a weekly basis. And we study the Bible together, and we talk about theology, and we talk about God together. Why don't you come? And so I came, and I joined this group with there's about 5 other guys. And after a while, I said, you know what, this is great. Can we meet one-on-one? And so I started meeting with him one-on-one every week, early in the morning. As a college kid, you know how hard that is, getting up in the morning. But I did it. And over that period of time, God radically changed my life. I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for Dr. Gary Nation back in 2000, who decided that he was willing to give up his time to meet with guys that wanted to talk about Jesus. And that changed everything for me. For many of you, you need that in your life. We have on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. a great men's group. I want to encourage you guys to come if you're not. It doesn't matter that we've already started, you can jump in now. Women, Wednesday nights, Sunday nights, come and be a part of it. Come and be a part of a small group that's willing to dive into each other's lives and dive into God's word. If you want something more than that, if you want to meet one-on-one, or if you're looking for maybe 2 or 3 guys or women to meet with, come talk to me. We can do this. I want you to be able to dig in and to be able to have people in your lives that will invest. That they don't just want to teach you the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, but they want to invest in your life. They care about your marriage. They care about, as a student, where you are, how you are handling life. We want to do this. So if you have a need for that, if you have a yearning for that, come see me. We can set that up for you where you can have some people to meet with. But it's so important for each and every one of us to be involved in some type of discipleship relationship. This is great. Sunday morning is great. Wednesday night is great. But there's got to be something more. Being a disciple of Jesus, it's different. It's different. But it's so rewarding. God will show you things that he has never shown you before when you're willing to just be involved in what he's doing. And to have people in your life that you're willing to say, you know what, I recognize that Jesus is my master. I may not understand it. I may have some problems with it, but I'm going to obey. He will do some things in your life when you're willing to live open-handed with what he's called you to do. And so I want to encourage you, pray about that. Talk with your family. Think about, how can I be discipled? How can I get to know Jesus better? What can that look like? And I think you'll be blessed when you do it. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for your word. We thank you for how you have shown us in your word the things that you want us to know, so that we can be your disciples, that we can follow you wherever that may be. And so this morning, Lord, as we take time to just pause and think about your word, think about how it applies to us, I pray that you would just speak. And if someone needs prayer this morning, that they would come and just get prayer. If you're a Christian, a follower of Jesus, and you need time to go take communion, to go do it. Thank Jesus for what he did. Wherever you are, I pray that you would just be obedient to where God is calling you to be. It's an amazing journey of discipleship and being a disciple of Jesus. Start the journey today. Amen.